Hello, and welcome to Chapter 8, Time and Space. This chapter is designed to prepare you to select the best path of travel, establish a safe following distance given road conditions, manage adequate space margins around your vehicle, effectively manage timing in various traffic conditions, select the best speed based on traffic visibility and road conditions, and effectively communicate with other road users, along with determining whether it's safe to pass other vehicles. Again, as with all the other units, we're going to start out with a chapter pre-quiz. What you're going to do, again, is you're going to read the question and provide an answer. And then at the end of this unit, we will ask for an email with question responses and anything we've asked along the unit to be responded to. And then we will provide further information. So starting out with question number 1, an adequate space margin is one that provides a driver with A, time, B, space, C, visibility, or D, all of the above are correct. Number 2, a driver should maintain a minimum following distance of 1 car length for every 10 miles per hour, 1 to 2 seconds, 3 to 4 seconds, or 15 to 20 seconds. Question number 3, a reasonable and proper speed for any set of condition is a speed that A, will not result in a violation, B, allows you to avoid spinouts, C, allows time to adjust your radio while moving, or D, provides a safe travel path. You should avoid passing another vehicle, A, as you approach a hill crest, B, when the sun is setting, C, when a police officer is present, or D, none of the above is correct. And I'm going to slide my PowerPoints down a little bit. 5, after passing a vehicle, it is safe to return to your lane when the other driver flashes their headlights. B, when you see the entire front of the vehicle you passed in the inside rearview mirror. C, you can see the front bumper in the rearview mirror. Or D, you reach the end of your marked passing zone. Here are some of the information tabs that we're going to work on: making smart decisions, selecting the best path of travel, managing space, managing time, selecting the best speed, passing other vehicles, and then a couple of practice areas. So we're going to start with making smart decisions. And I will ask you for the email at the end, if you would do me a favor and name at least 5 examples of a decision a driver has to make while out driving. We'll start with what time to start, what route to follow, what lane, what speed, what maneuvers to make, what controls to use, and what methods to best communicate. What should you do for every decision you make? We want to evaluate your options and consider possible consequences. Be accurate and timely. And we want to look at when and where to meet other traffic, when and where to yield, to stop, to signal, to change direction, or to change speed. And how much? Acceleration, how much to slow down or brake, how much to turn the steering wheel, and how much to communicate. Here we can see that we're braking at the line, and many driving situations offer limited options. For example, each time you encounter a traffic control device, you decide to conform to them or to ignore them and accept the consequences. For example, here, this vehicle has chosen to ignore the stop line and stop at the pedestrian crosswalk. Now, maybe they were ahead in their double stop for obstructed view and they were checking the intersection correctly. But as far as discussion points, we can see that this vehicle did not stop at the appropriate place. We can also see that we could answer our first question of preparing a right turn on red. And we can see here this is a do not turn on red. So potentially this lit up just as the vehicle was preparing to turn right, and then they were unable to do so, so they are waiting. Here, what must you decide if you do identify an object in the road conditions, a potentially problematic situation? Now, I would guess going down the road and seeing this picture here that this would be kind of a problematic situation. We don't know where this cow is going to go, what they're going to do, and what their plan is. So we have to think and identify ahead of time. And then here, so what are some other tips for making good decisions? Learning from your mistakes made by your peers. Hello, BAM Cam. So if we remember, I'm not sure if we were able to see these videos. We're going to go back. But one of these individuals was not well rested, was not in good mental and physical shape, and so they did not make good decisions. Here, they have a passenger that may sway their decision to do things correctly, so they want to make sure that you're just listening to your inner voice. Next, we're going to look at selecting the best path of travel. So here we have a car. They are on their intended path of travel. The space in which you can safely direct your vehicle at least risk is your intended path of travel. What should you select your travel path? Find the path that offers the lowest possible risk, even if that path is not the quickest in terms of reaching your destination or the most interesting. What are some reasons you may have to change your intended path? Changing traffic conditions, driving conditions and environments, actions and behaviors of other road users. Your intended path of travel is the space in which you can safely direct your vehicle with the lowest possible risk. In each of these lanes, you can see we have 10 to 12 feet. If the lanes are not marked, imagine a 12-foot wide carpet rolled out ahead of your vehicle. This is an imaginary path of travel for steering and control, but take care and use it only as a reference point. Never allow your eyes to become fixed on any one point or object. Rather, keep them acting and moving along. Roadway conditions. The conditions of the road shoulder also influences risk management. How could roadway conditions help you select the best intended path? The type of road service and its condition, state of repair can influence a driver's ability to manage risk. For example, if one lane is smooth and the other lane of the pavement is torn up and bumpy, the smooth lane could be the better one to be in. Items and debris on the roadway may present additional hazards. When possible, select a path of travel on roadways that are in good condition. Off-road conditions. If the path of travel has steep shoulders and ditches, culverts, utility poles, trees, signposts, curbs, or potholes, the risk increased or damage can result. When you select your path of travel, consider both roadway and shoulder conditions. Be alert to off-road conditions and off-road objects. Oops, excuse me, we're gonna come back here. When possible, select path of travel on roadways that's in a good condition. Now we'll go on to this next one. Sorry, I was skipping around a little bit. If the path of travel selected has steep shoulders and ditches, as I talked about just a moment ago, we want to be alert to the off-road objects that can limit the line of sight and options or adversely affect vehicle control. Steep shoulders and ditches, culverts, utility poles, and trees and signposts all increase risk. Bridge abutments, structures, and guardrails can also pose hazards. Curbs and potholes can damage your vehicle and limit your availability to avoid or manage a high-risk situation. How might traffic conditions influence your choice of path? Fewer vehicles directly ahead usually means fewer speed adjustments on your part. So seek out the lane with the least traffic, which will result in smoother overall driving. But there's a lot of vehicles backed up in the next lane over. Watch carefully for any suddenly veering into your lane. Selecting a path of travel is a continual process. Deciding on which options are best in traffic conditions change. Depending on circumstances, even the shoulder of the road can be the best choice. It's not initially selecting a path and being done with it. Choosing the best path is an ongoing part of driving. So for example, this vehicle was back here a moment ago in our imagination point. This vehicle moved over a lane because this is a hazard here for right here. So the vehicle chose to move over and give room for safety. Once they get past this vehicle here, they can come back over and remain in the right lane for the path of travel. Here, which question should you ask yourself when selecting your path of travel? Which path offers the maximum visibility? Hills, curves, obstructions, and other vehicles often limit how far you can see. Always position your vehicle so you can best see and be seen. The path that provides a clear space to the sides. You need enough space to the sides to minimize risk from objects that can enter your path. You also need space to provide an escape path and extra distance for possible errors. Which path provides the smoothest flow? The path where all vehicles are moving at a reasonable speed for existing conditions provides the smoothest flow of traffic. The path with the smoothest traffic flow usually provides the best space and visibility. Which path provides the best roadway surface? Any rough or slippery road condition will reduce traction, require a reduction in speed, and increase chance of error. Rough road surfaces may alter your vehicle's suspension, alignment. Avoid such areas if there's an alternative. How many lane positions are there? 3. Position 1, the vehicle is centered in the lane. This is here. Position 2, the vehicle is closer to the left side of the lane. And position 3, it's on the right side of the lane. So position 1, position 2, position 3. Managing space will be coming up next. We call Read the Road acronym. What does D stand for? Explain why this concept is important. And I'll kind of help you with this answer. The D stands for donut, which reminds us to maintain a big donut of space around our vehicle. And this allows us time to respond and to other drivers and objects and drive efficiently to reduce risk of crashes. Effectively managing space to drive safely and efficiently involves ensuring adequate space margins around your vehicle, taking into account braking distance and speed, practicing techniques for minimizing risk that relate to space, maintaining an adequate space margin in order to drive efficiently and reduce your risk of crashes. When is it extra important for drivers to use an effective space management system? When sharing the road with a runner or other pedestrians, physically disabled person, a stranded motorist, farm equipment, and other slow-moving vulnerable road users. These users might suddenly change direction, position, or rate of travel. And here's adequate space between your vehicle and objects ahead, behind, and to the sides of your vehicle. What are the benefits to maintaining adequate space around your vehicle? Gives you time to respond to changing conditions, provides improved line of sight. Drivers who maintain proper space around their vehicle rarely need to suddenly adjust their speed or position. How much space should you keep around your vehicle? Lots, a huge donut. Enough to enable you to efficiently manage the distance, time, and line of sight necessary for safe movement at all times. You need to accelerate, brake, and steer. You'll also need room to allow for mistakes that you and other road users may make. Adequate space margins also allow for quick steering and a way out of an emergent situation. The amount of space depends on the type and width of vehicle you're driving, your speed, and the types of maneuvers you are performing. The size and the shape of the optimal space margin varies with weather and road traffic conditions. All right, here we are going to look at how do you know how much clear space ahead you need for the speed you are going. For safety, vehicle must have a clear path ahead equal to the minimum stopping zone for the speed traveled. Stopping distances are based on averages when stopping on smooth dry pavement. What is perception time? The time it takes for a driver to see something. What is reaction time? The time it takes for a driver to react or take action after seeing something. So here's our perception distance. Here's our reaction distance. You can see now they're putting on their brake lights, and then we have braking distance. What driver-related factors may impact these times? Visual search, attention level, decision-making capabilities, fatigue, effects of alcohol and drugs, and potentially other things. Whoops, I'm going to go back a little bit. How does speed affect stopping distance? The faster you go, the longer it takes to stop. But it's more complicated than that. Each additional mile per hour you travel dramatically increases the stopping distance. Thus, the stopping distance from 40 miles per hour is not just double the stopping distance from 20 miles an hour, it's much longer. What roadway factors may impact these times? Weather conditions, road conditions, and potentially other items. What does reasonable and prudent distance mean when driving? Drivers should establish and maintain adequate space between your vehicle and a similar vehicle ahead of you. What is the 3 to 4 second following rule that we've talked about in previous chapters? It is a time interval you should allow between your vehicle and a similar vehicle ahead of you on days with an ideal visibility, dry pavement, and safe alternative path of travel. If you are attentive, this interval gives you enough time to stop quickly if necessary and safe to do so. If it is not safe to stop, this interval gives you time to steer into your previously identified alternate path of travel. Okay. Here they're just showing you the 3 to 4 seconds. So they're showing, picturing a stationary object that the car in front of you is at, and then you would count 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, and you should pass that sign. The space to the sides, you want your space donut also extends to the sides. Whenever possible, you should avoid driving alongside another vehicle on either side. How could you avoid that situation safely? Decelerating slightly and briefly will usually separate your vehicle from another vehicle next to you. If that's not possible, keep at least one car width of space to at least one side of your vehicle. All right, so areas with examples of reduced space, a road that narrows ahead, a road that reduces the number of lanes from 4 to 3 or 3 to 2, a road that reduces the lane size from 24 feet to 18 feet. Okay, so as we know that our roadways are normally 24 feet and they might shrink it up just a little bit. We can see here, this gets pretty tight as we're coming in. We go from a wide road back here to a tiny, almost 1-lane bridge, or maybe it is a 1-lane bridge as you get down there. We want to check our space to the rear. Which vehicle around your space is the hardest to control? And that's the space to the rear. You have very little control over that space. It's controlled by more by the driver behind than you. There are safe ways to respond and reduce your risk if you're being tailgated. And remember, we had talked earlier in the units about being tailgated. And what does tailgate mean? A driver is following the vehicle ahead of them too closely. All right. How can you encourage a tailgater to pass you? Slowly, gradually, and moving to either the right side of your lane or even to the shoulder if it's safe to do so. What should you do if you must stop suddenly? Signal clearly, move to the road shoulder if it's necessary to avoid a crash. What should you avoid doing if someone is following too closely behind you? Tapping your brakes or hitting them hard, a brake check, if you will. This maneuver is extremely dangerous and can cause a rear end crash. So here, what they're showing us is if we have a concern, we want to look, we can see the hazard over here, and we can notice that we want to move over to the left to go around the hazard, of course, if it's safe to do so. If you'll notice, these lines are yellow, so that would be a two-way street. So of course, making sure that if nobody's coming at you, we could either stop here and wait for oncoming traffic to come through for a clear spot to go around, or we could slow down substantially here and help this individual on the side. We can maneuver around a situation like this in your 4 to 5 second final response zone to help prevent trouble in the space. We want to maintain adequate space, leave space for hidden hazards like this one here. Avoid driving in packs, being so close to so many vehicles that it's very risky. It's far better to drive on your own back here, away from other vehicles. Drive your own trip. Move into a lane which vehicles are traveling closest to the speed to you. Establish a safe following distance from the last car in the pack. Then reduce your speed by 2 to 3 miles an hour and set the cruise control if the road surface is dry. What might you need to adjust to maintain adequate space margin? You may need to adjust your path of travel, as we say here. You may need to change speed. Maybe this individual slowed down, or both. We're not sure what this vehicle's doing up here, so we are slowing down, just kind of watching to see. Leave space for what you cannot see. So again, here we have a hazard, but we also have an intersection. Not only should you create space for dangers you can see, but you should reserve some space for potential hazards that you cannot see. It is the same thing with mental attention. You need to reserve some attention to handle the unexpected. If you are distracted, you are overloaded and thus cannot respond to unexpected events. What could limit your line of sight near driveways and intersections? Visual barriers such as shrubberies, landscaping, embankments, buildings, and more. You may not see movements in the area, but vehicles can suddenly pull into your path. What should you do in these situations? Move into the left lane if possible, or move over at least 1/2 car width or as close to the center of the roadway as possible. Check for understanding. Excuse me, that's going to be another activity. I just read a little farther in my notes. So I'm going to go past that. Then bear with me a second. We have another part of that program that doesn't load very well, and the PowerPoints are loading a little slower this afternoon. So I'm going to load them up and skip through a second. And they're still loading, so just bear with me for a moment. And we're still loading. They gave us a lot of little scenarios on this one that won't load up very nicely. So again, just give me a moment. I'm going to click on this one and let it load as it's multiple PowerPoints in the future. So I want to make sure we don't have any issues. This here is just a little glimpse of what we're working on. They attempted to allow you to be as if you're on a simulator and working through tasks and programs. However, it's very touchy and it doesn't work very well. All righty, now we are coming into managing time. So here, I'm going to go back to this one just a little bit. Here's a question for you. I want you to think of a situation where timing makes a big difference when driving. Describe the situation and why timing matters. So I want you to think of why timing might be important in turning for an intersection, traveling in a downtown area, traveling in a rural area, just maybe a place where timing of the next event, the next maneuver is very important. Why is proper timing a key to safe driving? Proper timing is important because many crashes happen when drivers are not paying attention to the right thing at the right time. Proper timing may involve adjusting a vehicle speed. Other examples include timing your turn to avoid meeting another driver at the same moment and place, not passing or changing lanes when another vehicle is in your mirror blind zones, and properly timing your turn signal. Here, what we're looking at, what should you do when an object moves into your 3 to 4 second space zone ahead? Rebake your donut, it's saying here. You must know whether you should change your speed and how much to decrease or increase it. So here we got a little close to the side, so maybe this car moves over just a little bit. Your decision depends on your ability to judge when and where other objects might enter your path of travel. When should you avoid passing vehicles and changing lanes? In reduced visibility conditions. Holes, bumps, patches of wet leaves, ice and water on the road can increase chance that you'll lose control of your vehicle. Avoid passing large trucks in crosswinds. Large trucks and any crosswinds will be in full effect in the front and the rear of the large truck, but it will decrease or disappear as you're driving next to the truck, and that's because essentially they are blocking it. Maintaining control of your vehicle as you re-enter a crosswind after passing a large truck can be very difficult. What are other factors that could impact your timing decisions? Objects that block your vision, such as hedges, billboards, building, a dip in the road that is deep enough to hide a small car. Now that's a Michigan road right there, right? If anybody's been on a Michigan road, we have dips in our roads. What should you do if you miss your turn? Avoid braking quickly and steering suddenly, and continue to the next intersection and safely reroute yourself. Don't block traffic or delay anyone. Don't force anyone to brake or steer. When performing a driving maneuver, you should adjust the radio. You should avoid adjusting the radio, moving the sun visor, looking at the navigation system, adjusting the defroster wipers, air conditioner, or heater. Critical driving maneuvers should take priority. Drivers should always consider their driving priorities. Your top priorities are critical driver control actions, managing your speed control, and I apologize, this is not moving quickly, managing your space, and managing your path of travel. Closing probability. What is closing probability? And that is the chance that a vehicle and another road user will move closer together as they move along their projected path of travel. Common traffic conflict situation. Oncoming cars. Beware of oncoming cars crossing into your lane, even on freeways. Vehicles can cross medians or jump guardrails, resulting in side angle or head-on collisions. Merging or exiting cars. Entering, exiting, and merging vehicles typically close in on your travel path at an angle from the side. These vehicles may be slowing or accelerating from a stop, merging from freeway ramps and acceleration lanes, merging from park position along the side of the roadway, or changing lanes. Cars ahead of you, vehicles ahead of you traveling in the same direction can suddenly increase your level of risk in two ways. Driver of the vehicle ahead may stop suddenly or swerve into your lane. Driver of vehicle in adjacent lane may suddenly swerve into your lane. So you can see here we have looks like a puppy dog. Looks like the vehicle stopped and this guy wasn't paying attention, so he swerved into a lane here. Vehicles behind you. Vehicles following too closely could crash in the rear of your vehicle if you stop suddenly, a serious problem that is even more likely to occur at night. And finally, intersecting traffic. Crashes occur at intersections frequently when drivers run red lights or fail to obey stop signs. Pedestrians, bicycles, or animals can suddenly dart onto the roadway along your path of travel. Okay. How will you judge? Actions of other drivers that increase probability of closing. Sudden decrease in speed or brake by a vehicle in front. Whether another vehicle gets to the intersection at the same time as you. And if the vehicle behind you will stop quickly enough if you do. When should you search for closing actions? Continually. Smart drivers never stop searching for other road users closing in on them. When evaluating other road users, what questions will you be faced with? Will an oncoming driver suddenly attempt to turn left across your path? Will the driver ahead slow gradually or make sudden aggressive stops? Will a vehicle arrive at an intersection at the same time as you? Will a driver behind you be able to stop quickly if you also stop quickly? Will a vehicle parked along the roadway suddenly pull out and move in your path of travel? The key question to be answered is, how might another road user increase the probability of closing? So as you can see, there's a lot of questions as you go down the road. It isn't just turning on the car and turning the steering wheel and using the accelerator and the brake. You have to ask yourself a lot of questions. You have to be thinking and processing the information as you go. What are others thinking? What are others going to do? What's the next plan and where do I go? Typical driver errors. The right-of-way, the failure to yield the right-of-way can cause errors when a driver does not obey stop signs or yield signs, runs a red light, does not yield to other vehicles. Speed adjustment, a driver fails to adjust speed effectively. Examples include approaching a stop sign or a yield sign too fast, approaching a turn too fast, or driving through a turn too fast. Poor judgment of distance or space may cause drivers to tailgate other vehicles. swing wide or turn too sharply, pass or overtake improperly, select improper lane or position for a turn. Vehicle control. A driver may have inadequate or improper control of their vehicle, such as when they brake suddenly or steer too quickly on a slippery surface, recover poorly from a turn, sit in an improper position when driving. Improper signals are sent to other vehicles when a driver does not signal when changing lanes or turning, uses four-way emergency flashers improperly, and gives a false signal. Possible timing errors that could event here. Failing to adjust the speed to deal with only one hazard at a time. Quite frequently, you will encounter multiple hazards at the same time and place. If you do not adjust your speed to deal with them one at a time, you'll be squeezed in from the side. So for example, if there's a car back here behind this guy on the bicycle, they could try to come in, but there's not enough room to give the bicyclist enough room and themselves. So they're trying to squeeze by. So they would let the bicyclist get ahead of their lane. And then once a bicyclist is clearly through, then they could make a lane change. Instead, by slowing down just a little bit, you can deal with each hazard separately, and it provides an opportunity to meet a moving object in place with more space, increased lines of sight. What could the consequences be of committing these types of errors? Predictability plays a large role in the success of the highway traffic safety system. When road users behave in unpredictable ways, risk increases and crashes and other highway traffic safety breakdowns can occur. It's important that drivers perform well at all times and behave in ways that enable other users of the highway traffic safety system to accurately predict their actions. Separating risk. We want to deal with one at a time. It's called separating. We want to avoid meeting other road users side by side in areas of reduced visibility and space. So here, I'm going to back up just a second. We can see the two cars are coming in. They're in a real close space. We'll pick on the gold car for just a minute. Now this gold car sees this other car coming, but it also knows that it's coming on a bridge that's fairly close. And they're not very sure if they're going to be able to have enough room to pass. So at this point in time, the gold car could slow down, maybe find a little break, and allow the green car to come through. With that, we would not have this situation where they're in a closed, tight area where maybe they don't fit by twos. And so they'd increase their safety by slowing down a little bit and letting the other one through first. Pedestrians walking on the side of the road, instead of driving between the pedestrians as an oncoming car, we should reduce the risk by moving around them. Let the oncoming car go first, and then pass the pedestrians when you are given plenty of room. Okay, here's another picture of the bridge, just a little more real-time picture of how the bridge can kind of sneak in together. And definitely we don't want to pass on a narrow bridge. Compromising. Sometimes we have to compromise. It involves putting more space between you and the hazard and the greater risk. Slowing down is still a very good idea when compromising. For example, you may have to pass a bicyclist with oncoming traffic on the left. So here we have oncoming traffic. We have a bicyclist in front of us. We have to make a decision. By slowing down and allowing these cars to pass, or this car to pass, we then could do a nice full complete pass around the bicyclist when pavement markings allow us to. Selecting the best speed is going to be next. And moving my slides along a little bit. Basic speed law we have here. Under what road conditions do speed limits posted on black and white regulatory signs apply? They apply under ideal driving conditions. The road must be clear, dry, and lit with freely moving traffic. What is the basic speed law? It requires drivers to factor in visibility, traction, and the volume and speed of nearby traffic, and not to exceed reasonable and prudent speeds. You must also be aware of prevailing conditions and drive accordingly, allowing yourself a clear distance ahead in which to stop if necessary. What is reasonable and proper speed? Provides a safe path of travel, provides time and space if an emergency develops. The ideal speed provides time and space to brake and to steer to a safe alternate path at least 4 to 5 seconds ahead if an emergency develops. If you drive too fast, you will not be able to stay in your intended path and stop in time to avoid the crash. Okay, and some of those factors are coming up at this point. So what are the three major factors? Change in line of sight, change in traction, which could be this first picture as well, and change in space. Change of line of sight, the distance you can see ahead of you along your projected path of travel affects your safe speed. Your field of view also influences safe speed selection. You must be able to see both sides of the roadway. Check intersections, driveways, and other roadside areas from which objects may move into your path. Traction, unfavorable weather, as we see up here in the picture on the left, and the rain reduces traction, so you may need more time and distance to stop. And space, finally. Identification of an adequate stopping zone is important because a stopping zone provides a valuable guide for how fast you should travel. At highway speeds, always adjust your speed so the stopping zone is less than the distance you can see ahead. And here, how much information can the average person collect in one glance? 5 to 7 bits. What are some examples of bits of information? Numbers, letters, symbols, and a signal light flashing. What are some examples of things or events that would require several glances? Reading an overhead sign or a sign along the roadway? Taking note of what other road users are doing? How long does it take for the human brain to process information? 1/2 to 3/4 of a second. At 55 miles per hour, your vehicle travels approximately 80 feet in 1 second. That's about 1/4 the height of the Statue of Liberty. Plus, most control actions take about a 1/2 second, such as starting to turn the steering wheel, beginning to apply the brakes. When it comes to acting on driving decisions resulting from gathered information, there are the following 4 factors: adjusting speed, slowing, stopping, or accelerating, adjusting direction or position, communicating, performing a combination of two or more of the above actions. Adjusting your speed may be an only option. What risk reducing maneuver are you left with if there's not enough room to put more space between you and a nearby risk? You are left with the option of adjusting your speed, but speed adjustments are powerful. They are very frequently enough to get the job done to reduce the risk. You just have to take the action, lifting off the accelerator and smoothly applying the brakes. When it comes to speed and space, the closer you must pass by an object, the slower your speed should be. And passing other vehicles is going to be next. When passing, consider, is passing legal? Is passing safe? Is passing worth it? Here, we're trying to pass with an oncoming vehicle. Do you think it's safe? Here, we're trying to pass going up a hill, so we don't know what's on the other side. Here, we're passing around a curve where we're unsure what's coming around the curve. Passing in an intersection, passing at a bridge or a tunnel, passing at a railroad. Now, if you think about it for just a moment, all of these should seem pretty dangerous. So let's see. No, not a good idea. Not a good idea. And again, and again, and again. So as you can see, none of those areas where a pass was attempted, at least in our picture scenario, wasn't a good idea. Questions to ask before passing. After determining that passing is legal, safe, and worth it, what other questions should you ask? Is the roadway ahead clear? How far is the nearest oncoming vehicle? Can I see far enough ahead? So as you can see here, yes, we can pass per the paint marking lines, ... However, this car is not far enough to create a safe distance for this car to pass around this silver car and come back into place. So the answer to this question is this is not a safe opportunity to pass. Okay, and we're going to move on here. How often is passing worth the risk? Not very often. Well, in fact, rarely. So if we don't have to pass, we don't want to. Now, of course, if conditions warrant, we should pass, maybe for safety or something of that sort. But is passing worth the risk on a rural roadway like this potentially? No. Preparing to pass another vehicle. We're going to get the little click boxes up here a moment. What steps should you take if preparing to pass another vehicle? Position your vehicle properly. Search mirrors for oncoming traffic. So right here, the vehicle is positioned. They're searching mirrors and searching ahead to see is there anything in the distance. Use your left turn signal. You can see it here. You're going to come around, and once you get past this vehicle or see its two headlights in your rearview mirror, you're going to communicate to the right and move back over. And we're going to go to the next one here. Passing a vehicle ahead. All right. With your left turn signal on, accelerate into the oncoming lane. Accelerate quickly to a speed to 10 to 20 miles per hour faster than the vehicle you are passing. Now you have to be careful here. This 10 to 20 miles an hour must also stay at the speed limit and no more. Concentrate on the path ahead and search behind you for following traffic. Returning to your lane, we can check the rearview mirror. So as I said here, we're going to check the rearview mirror, view the entire front or both headlights of the car in front of you. Activate your right turn signal, as you can see here. Move over to your position, cancel your spot, check your speed, and adjust as needed. I'll skip a couple of these here. Apologize, I jumped a couple slides on me, so we're going to come here a second. I'm just going to glance at this. I'm not exactly sure what this is, and we're going to see if the snap drives will play today for us. A police vehicle is blocking your lane ahead. Often when you see a police vehicle positioned like this, it's providing physical protection for something going on behind it. If a distracted driver approaches and does not see the police activity, the police would much rather that the driver crash into the police vehicle than in the police officer. We can see here again, well, we can't see, we guess we can see them in the distance. Traffic signals are red. You are about to enter a temporary work zone. We can see this. Anything else going on worth reading? Potentially not. Here we've got a pedestrian walking straight at you, but since it's a shopping area, this is not unusual. In parking lots, pedestrians are everywhere. There's an oncoming vehicle and cars parked on both sides of you. Anything else going on that we should be reading into? So here we've got the pedestrian walking. We've got the car moving along here. Oops, I'm going to bring it back a second. But multiple cars, multiple different shapes, multiple different sizes. So that could be another issue when they're backing out. They might not see a pedestrian walking. So we want to be aware of our surroundings. What's going on here? A delivery van is directly ahead with taillights on, but those aren't brake lights, those are hazard lights. The van is completely stopped in your lane. A white truck ahead appears to want to turn left out of the neighborhood. Does the driver see you? The road is downhill. There's a shared left turn lane. And where is the driver of the delivery van? All right, so delivery van, car coming down the hill, shared left turn, which might create a potential problem. So you can see there's a lot going on in one picture. The white truck ahead wants to turn left, it appears. The road is downhill, among other things we've discussed. All right, so we got an open car door ahead on the right. What's about to happen with that? So we can see the open car door. Maybe a pedestrian is getting out. Pedestrian on the left is squeezed up against the parked truck. So we can see a pedestrian kind of over here a little bit. Stop sign intersection ahead is up here. We've got car passing. I think we look pretty good. All right, this is going to end chapter 8. And at this time, I would like you to gather your questions. You're going to submit them by email. If you've obtained a book to go along with this unit, as I've said in the other units, I will have you do questions based on what the email requests. And from there, when you're all set, you will submit your email answering your questions, and any statements I've asked you to make along the way, and we'll work on getting the next unit to you.